Question 1. In Alabama, a surplus lines insurance policy typically differs from an admitted insurance policy in several key aspects. Which of the following is a characteristic unique to surplus lines insurance policies? A. Surplus lines insurers are licensed by the state and must adhere to state rate and form regulations. B. Surplus lines insurers can offer coverage that is typically unavailable in the standard market due to unique or high risks. C. Surplus lines insurers must participate in state guarantee funds which protect policyholders if an insurer becomes insolvent. D. Surplus lines insurance premiums are not subject to any specific state taxes or fees. Correct answer. B. Surplus lines insurers can offer coverage that is typically unavailable in the standard market due to unique or high risks. Explanation. Surplus lines insurance is designed to provide coverage for risks that are either too unique, high risk, or otherwise uninsurable in the admitted market. This flexibility is a key characteristic that sets surplus lines apart, allowing them to cover niche markets. Question 2. Scenario. Sarah, a claims adjuster in Alabama, is handling a claim for a surplus lines policyholder whose business was affected by a severe storm. During her investigation, Sarah gathers testimonies from the insured, employees, and local witnesses. However, she is unsure how to best corroborate these accounts with additional evidence. Which of the following steps should Sarah prioritize to ensure a thorough and credible investigation in this context? A. Solely relying on the testimonies provided without seeking additional documentation. B. Immediately finalizing the claim based on initial findings to expedite the process. C. Consulting with a weather expert to obtain detailed reports on the storm's impact on the specific location of the insured's business. D. Dismissing testimonies that seem inconsistent without further inquiry or evidence. Correct answer. C. Consulting with a weather expert to obtain detailed reports on the storm's impact on the specific location of the insured's business. Explanation. Consulting with a weather expert allows Sarah to gain an objective understanding of the storm's specific impact, providing solid evidence that supports or challenges the claims made by the insured and witnesses. This step enhances the credibility and thoroughness of the investigation. Question 3. In Alabama, what is a fundamental ethical consideration that surplus lines claims adjusters must adhere to when handling claims, particularly in complex cases involving multiple stakeholders? A. Prioritizing the interests of the insurer over those of the insured. B. Ensuring transparent and honest communication with all parties involved. C. Maximizing the financial benefit for the insurer by minimizing claim payouts. D. Relying solely on internal guidelines without considering external regulatory requirements. Correct answer. B. Ensuring transparent and honest communication with all parties involved. Explanation. Transparency and honesty are foundational to ethical claims handling. Adjusters must communicate clearly and truthfully with all parties, ensuring that decisions are well explained and all relevant information is disclosed. This fosters trust and integrity in the claims process. Question 4. In Alabama, surplus lines brokers and insurers must comply with specific state regulations to ensure the proper handling of claims. Which of the following statements accurately reflects a regulatory requirement for surplus lines insurance claims handling in Alabama? A. Surplus lines insurers must file their policy forms with the Alabama Department of Insurance for approval before use. B. Surplus lines brokers must ensure that they have conducted a diligent search of the admitted market before placing a policy with a surplus lines insurer. C. Claims adjusters working with surplus lines insurers must obtain a special surplus lines adjusting license from the Alabama Department of Insurance. D. Surplus lines insurers are exempt from providing any claims information to the Alabama Department of Insurance. Correct answer. B. Surplus lines brokers must ensure that they have conducted a diligent search of the admitted market before placing a policy with a surplus lines insurer. Explanation. Alabama law requires surplus lines brokers to conduct a diligent search in the admitted market to confirm that the coverage needed is not available from admitted insurers. This ensures that surplus lines insurance is used appropriately as a last resort. Question 5. Scenario. David, an insured under a surplus lines policy in Alabama, has filed a claim for property damage after a fire at his manufacturing plant. During the investigation, the claims adjuster, Jenna, discovers discrepancies in the documentation provided by David and witnesses conflicting reports about the fire's origin. What should Jenna do to resolve these discrepancies effectively and ensure a comprehensive investigation? A. Disregard the conflicting reports and proceed with the claim based solely on David's documentation. B. Immediately deny the claim due to the inconsistencies in the reports. C. Hire a fire investigation expert to conduct a detailed analysis of the fire's cause and gather more evidence. D. Settle the claim quickly to avoid potential disputes and maintain customer satisfaction. Correct answer. C. Hire a fire investigation expert to conduct a detailed analysis of the fire's cause and gather more evidence. Explanation. Hiring a fire investigation expert helps Jenna gain an objective, professional assessment of the fire's cause. This approach is crucial in complex cases with conflicting evidence, ensuring that the claim is evaluated based on factual and technical analysis. Question 6. In Alabama, when negotiating and reaching a settlement agreement for a surplus lines insurance claim, what is a key factor that claims adjusters must consider to ensure compliance with regulatory requirements and fair claims practices? A. Adjusters must ensure that the settlement amount is as low as possible to protect the insurer's financial interests. B. Adjusters should only offer settlements that match the initial claim amount requested by the insured, regardless of the investigation findings. C. Adjusters must document all settlement discussions and agreements thoroughly and ensure that both parties fully understand and agree to the terms. D. Adjusters are not required to involve the insured in the settlement process and can finalize the agreement independently. Correct answer. C. Adjusters must document all settlement discussions and agreements thoroughly and ensure that both parties fully understand and agree to the terms. Explanation. Comprehensive documentation of all settlement discussions and agreements is crucial for regulatory compliance and transparency. This ensures that there is a clear record of what was agreed upon, protecting both parties and reducing the risk of future disputes. Question 7. In Alabama, surplus lines insurance plays a crucial role in providing coverage for risks not easily placed in the admitted market. Which of the following best describes the regulatory framework and licensing requirements for surplus lines brokers in Alabama? A. Surplus lines brokers must be directly licensed by the surplus lines insurers they represent. B. Surplus lines brokers are exempt from any licensing requirements and can operate freely within the state. C. Surplus lines brokers must obtain a surplus lines broker license from the Alabama Department of Insurance and comply with specific state regulations, including diligent search requirements. D. Surplus lines brokers must adhere to the same licensing requirements and regulatory standards as admitted insurers. Correct answer. C. Surplus lines brokers must obtain a surplus lines broker license from the Alabama Department of Insurance and comply with specific state regulations, including diligent search requirements. Explanation. In Alabama, surplus lines brokers must obtain a specific surplus lines broker license from the Alabama Department of Insurance. It must also comply with regulations such as conducting a diligent search of the admitted market before placing coverage with a surplus lines insurer, ensuring that such placement is appropriate and justifiable. Question 8. Given the unique nature of surplus lines insurance policies in Alabama, which of the following statements is true regarding the interpretation of policy language and exclusions in surplus lines claims? A. Policy language in surplus lines insurance must always be interpreted in favor of the insurer, given their flexibility in policy design. B. Exclusions in surplus lines policies are typically less stringent than those in admitted policies, making claims easier to settle. C. Policy language and exclusions in surplus lines insurance are interpreted based on their plain meaning and the intent of the parties, similar to admitted insurance policies. D. Surplus lines policies are not subject to standard rules of interpretation and can be enforced based on insurer discretion. Correct answer. C. Policy language and exclusions in surplus lines insurance are interpreted based on their plain meaning and the intent of the parties, similar to admitted insurance policies. Explanation. Both surplus lines and admitted insurance policies are interpreted based on their plain meaning and the intent of the parties involved. Courts aim to understand what the policy language means in a straightforward context and uphold the contract's intended coverage and exclusions. Question 9. Scenario. Rebecca is a surplus lines insurance adjuster in Alabama handling a claim for a business interruption due to a flood. The policyholder, a small business owner named Mr. Thompson, is dissatisfied with the initial settlement offer and believes it does not adequately cover his loss. To address Mr. Thompson's concerns and explore alternatives, which approach should Rebecca consider to ensure a fair resolution while adhering to regulatory and ethical standards? A. Finalize the settlement quickly as per the initial offer to avoid further discussions and potential legal costs. B. Suggest that Mr. Thompson accept the initial offer since it's within the policy limits, regardless of his assessment of the loss. C. Engage in a negotiation process with Mr. Thompson, potentially involving mediation, to find a mutually agreeable settlement. D. Advise Mr. Thompson that any dissatisfaction with the settlement must be resolved through litigation as the only option. Correct answer. C. Engage in a negotiation process with Mr. Thompson, potentially involving mediation, to find a mutually agreeable settlement. Explanation. Engaging in a negotiation process allows for an open discussion about the settlement and loss evaluation. Mediation can provide a neutral platform to explore Mr. Thompson's concerns and reach a fair resolution, adhering to ethical standards and regulatory requirements for fair claims handling. Question 10. Scenario. James, an insured in Alabama, has filed a claim under his surplus lines policy after a substantial theft loss at his retail store. The claims adjuster, Maria, is tasked with investigating the claim. During her investigation, Maria finds that the store's security footage does not clearly capture the theft incident. Additionally, the inventory records provided by James appear incomplete and inconsistent with his initial report of the stolen goods. What should Maria do next to effectively proceed with the investigation and ensure a fair assessment of James's claim? A. Deny the claim immediately due to the inconsistencies in the inventory records and the lack of clear security footage. B. Request an independent audit of James's inventory records and engage a forensic expert to analyze the security footage for any overlooked details. C. Accept James's claim based on his initial report and proceed to settle the claim promptly to avoid delays. D. Rely solely on the available security footage and incomplete inventory records to make a decision on the claim. Correct answer. B. Request an independent audit of James's inventory records and engage a forensic expert to analyze the security footage for any overlooked details. Explanation. Conducting an independent audit of the inventory records and involving a forensic expert to examine the security footage are appropriate steps. This approach helps to clarify any inconsistencies and uncover additional evidence, ensuring a comprehensive and fair evaluation of the claim. Question 11. In Alabama, surplus lines insurance policies often contain unique provisions and exclusions not typically found in admitted insurance policies. Which of the following best describes how policy language and exclusions should be interpreted in the context of a surplus lines claim? A. Policy language and exclusions in surplus lines policies are interpreted strictly in favor of the insured to protect their flexibility in underwriting. B. Surplus lines policy language and exclusions are interpreted based on their plain and ordinary meaning, and any ambiguities result in favor of the insured. C. Exclusions in surplus lines policies are considered less binding than those in admitted policies and can be overridden if they conflict with the insured's expectations. D. Surplus lines insurers can modify the interpretation of policy language and exclusions on a case-by-case basis without reference to standard legal principles. Correct answer. B. Surplus lines policy language and exclusions are interpreted based on their plain and ordinary meaning, and any ambiguities result in favor of the insured. Explanation. Standard legal principles apply to the interpretation of surplus lines insurance policies just as they do for admitted policies. The language is interpreted based on its plain meaning, and ambiguities are resolved in favor of the insured, adhering to the principle of contra pro forentum. Question 12. In Alabama, surplus lines insurers and brokers must comply with specific regulatory requirements when handling claims. Which of the following statements correctly reflects a regulatory obligation related to surplus lines claims handling in Alabama? A. Surplus lines insurers must provide a detailed annual report of all claims settled and pending to the Alabama Department of Insurance. B. Surplus lines brokers are required to collect and remit premium taxes on behalf of the insured but are not involved in the claims handling process. C. Surplus lines insurers are exempt from following state fair claims practices and are only subject to federal regulations. D. Surplus lines brokers must maintain accurate records of all surplus lines transactions and submit these records to the Alabama Department of Insurance upon request. Correct answer. D. Surplus lines brokers must maintain accurate records of all surplus lines transactions and submit these records to the Alabama Department of Insurance upon request. Explanation. Surplus lines brokers are required to maintain accurate and detailed records of all surplus lines transactions. These records must be available for review by the Alabama Department of Insurance to ensure compliance with state regulations and facilitate oversight of surplus lines market activities. Question 13. When evaluating the extent and value of a claim under a surplus lines insurance policy in Alabama, which of the following methods should be employed to ensure an accurate and fair assessment? A. Using only the initial loss estimate provided by the insured, as it reflects the most direct understanding of the loss. B. Comparing the loss with similar claims in the admitted market to establish a benchmark for evaluation. C. Conducting a thorough analysis that includes a review of the policy terms, obtaining independent appraisals, and consulting industry experts as necessary. D. Relying solely on the insurer's internal guidelines to determine the claim value, regardless of external factors or additional evidence. Correct answer. C. Conducting a thorough analysis that includes a review of the policy terms, obtaining independent appraisals, and consulting industry experts as necessary. Explanation. A thorough evaluation involves reviewing the policy terms to understand coverage, obtaining independent appraisals to determine the loss's actual value, and consulting industry experts to provide insights that align with best practices and accurate valuations. Question 14. In Alabama, who is primarily responsible for ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements during the claims handling process for surplus lines insurance? A. The policyholder, as they are the party initiating the claim. B. The surplus lines broker, as they facilitate the placement of the insurance. C. The claims adjuster, as they oversee the investigation and settlement of the claim. D. The surplus lines insurer, as they underwrite the policy and are ultimately responsible for claim payments. Correct answer. D. The surplus lines insurer, as they underwrite the policy and are ultimately responsible for claim payments. Explanation. The surplus lines insurer is ultimately responsible for ensuring that all regulatory requirements are met during the claims handling process. This includes compliance with state-specific regulations, such as those in Alabama, and adherence to fair claims practices. Question 15. Scenario. Sarah, a business owner in Alabama, has filed a claim under her surplus lines insurance policy for property damage caused by a severe storm. The initial settlement offer from the insurer does not fully cover the cost of repairs. Sarah is considering her options and wants to ensure she receives a fair settlement without engaging in a lengthy legal process. What is the most appropriate course of action for Sarah to pursue to achieve a fair resolution while avoiding litigation? A. Accept the initial settlement offer to expedite the process and minimize disruption to her business. B. File a complaint with the Alabama Department of Insurance to pressure the insurer into providing a higher settlement. C. Engage in a negotiation process with the insurer and consider mediation or alternative dispute resolution methods to reach a mutually agreeable settlement. D. Publicly disclose her dissatisfaction with the insurer's offer on social media to prompt a better response. Correct answer. C. Engage in a negotiation process with the insurer and consider mediation or alternative dispute resolution methods to reach a mutually agreeable settlement. Explanation. Negotiation, mediation, or alternative dispute resolution methods provide a constructive approach to resolving the claim. These methods allow for open communication and can help both parties reach a fair settlement without the need for litigation. Question 16. In the context of surplus lines insurance in Alabama, how should a policyholder interpret an exclusion for a flood damage surplus lines policy that does not explicitly define the term flood? A. Refer to the most commonly accepted definition in the surplus lines market, which typically includes any accumulation of water from natural events. B. Use the standard definition provided by the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, as the guideline, even though it's not directly applicable to surplus lines policies. C. Assume the exclusion is ambiguous and therefore cannot be enforced, allowing coverage for flood damage. D. Interpret the term according to the plain and ordinary meaning as commonly understood and resolve any ambiguity in favor of the policyholder. Correct answer. D. Interpret the term according to the plain and ordinary meaning as commonly understood and resolve any ambiguity in favor of the policyholder. Explanation. Legal principles dictate that policy terms are interpreted based on their plain and ordinary meaning. In the case of ambiguity, the courts generally resolve it in favor of the insured, especially in surplus lines where policies are often more flexible but must still provide clear terms. Question 17. Under Alabama law, which of the following practices would be considered a violation of fair claims handling requirements for surplus lines insurers? A. Promptly investigating the facts of a claim to determine the extent of liability. B. Providing a clear explanation for the denial of a claim, including reference to specific policy provisions. C. Failing to acknowledge and act on a claim within a reasonable time frame. D. Offering a settlement that is substantially less than the amount justified by the policy and evidence. Correct answer. C. Failing to acknowledge and act on a claim within a reasonable time frame. Explanation. Failure to acknowledge and act on a claim within a reasonable time frame violates Alabama's fair claims handling requirements. Insurers must handle claims promptly and fairly to comply with regulatory standards. Question 18. Scenario. Mark owns a manufacturing plant in Alabama and has a surplus lines insurance policy that covers his business. After a significant machinery breakdown, Mark files a claim. The insurer's initial investigation suggests the damage may be covered under the policy's equipment breakdown clause, but the claim adjuster is unsure about certain exclusions. Mark needs the settlement to replace the machinery and resume operations quickly. What steps should the claims adjuster take to ensure regulatory compliance and facilitate a fair and expedient settlement? A. Proceed with a quick settlement based on preliminary findings to expedite Mark's business recovery, disregarding the need for further clarification on the exclusions. B. Deny the claim outright to avoid potential overpayment and reduce the insurer's financial risk. C. Review the policy in detail, consult with underwriters or legal experts about the exclusions, and communicate transparently with Mark regarding the claim status and expected timeline for resolution. D. Advise Mark to seek alternative financing to replace the machinery while the insurer takes additional time to review the claim thoroughly. Correct answer. C. Review the policy in detail, consult with underwriters or legal experts about the exclusions, and communicate transparently with Mark regarding the claim status and expected timeline for resolution. Explanation. Reviewing the policy in detail, seeking expert opinions, and maintaining clear communication with the policyholder are crucial steps. This approach ensures compliance with regulatory standards and promotes a fair and transparent settlement process. Question 19. In Alabama, a surplus lines insurer is facing litigation over a denied claim. Which of the following steps should the insurer take to effectively manage litigation expenses while ensuring a robust defense? A. Settle the claim quickly regardless of the merits to avoid high litigation costs and reputational damage. B. Rely solely on their in-house legal team to handle the litigation, regardless of the case's complexity. C. Hire outside legal counsel with specialized experience in surplus lines insurance and consider using alternative dispute resolution methods such as mediation. D. Delay the litigation process as much as possible to pressure the claimant into dropping the lawsuit. Correct answer. C. Hire outside legal counsel with specialized experience in surplus lines insurance and consider using alternative dispute resolution methods such as mediation. Explanation. Engaging experienced outside counsel ensures that the defense is robust and tailored to the nuances of surplus lines insurance. Alternative dispute resolution methods can be cost-effective and quicker, potentially resolving disputes without the full cost of litigation. Question 20. Which of the following statements accurately describes a key characteristic and advantage of surplus lines insurance in Alabama? A. Surplus lines insurance is strictly regulated by Alabama state law and must follow the same rate and form filing requirements as admitted insurance. B. Surplus lines insurers can provide coverage for high-risk or unique exposures that are not typically available in the admitted market, offering more flexible policy terms. C. Surplus lines insurance policies are backed by state guarantee funds, ensuring protection for policyholders in the event of insurer insolvency. D. Surplus lines insurance is usually cheaper than admitted insurance because it avoids state regulations and offers standardized policy forms. Correct answer. B. Surplus lines insurers can provide coverage for high-risk or unique exposures that are not typically available in the admitted market, offering more flexible policy terms. Explanation. One of the main advantages of surplus lines insurance is its ability to cover risks that the admitted market finds too risky or unusual. Surplus lines insurers can tailor policies to meet specific needs that are not addressed by standardized forms. Question 21 scenario. Emily owns a boutique hotel in Alabama insured under a surplus lines policy. After a fire severely damages part of the property, she files a claim. During the settlement process, Emily notices delays in communication from the insurer and feels the settlement offer does not adequately cover the repair costs. Emily is considering her options to address these issues. What steps should Emily take to ensure that her claim is settled fairly and in compliance with Alabama's regulatory requirements? A. Accept the settlement offer as it is and try to cover the remaining costs through a loan to avoid further delays. B. File a complaint with the Alabama Department of Insurance citing unfair claims handling practices and request a review of her case. C. Hire a public adjuster to independently assess the damage and negotiate with the insurer on her behalf. D. Reject the settlement offer outright and threaten legal action to force the insurer into a higher settlement. Correct answer. B. File a complaint with the Alabama Department of Insurance citing unfair claims handling practices and request a review of her case. Explanation. Filing a complaint with the Alabama Department of Insurance is a formal way to address potential regulatory violations. The department can investigate unfair claims handling practices and help ensure that the insurer complies with state regulations. Question 22. During a claims investigation in Alabama, what is the most effective approach for a surplus lines claims adjuster to ensure that all relevant evidence is gathered and evaluated accurately? A. Rely solely on the initial claim report provided by the insured and use it as the primary basis for the investigation. B. Conduct a thorough site inspection, interview all relevant parties including the insured and witnesses, and consult with external experts if necessary. C. Limit the investigation to review of the insurer's internal documents and previous similar claims to expedite the process. D. Defer the investigation entirely to a third-party investigator to avoid potential bias and ensure impartiality. Correct answer. B. Conduct a thorough site inspection, interview all relevant parties including the insured and witnesses, and consult with external experts if necessary. Explanation. A thorough investigation involves direct examination of the site, interviews with all relevant parties, and, when necessary, consultation with external experts. This approach ensures a well-rounded and accurate assessment of the claim. Question 23. In Alabama, what are surplus lines brokers required to do to comply with state regulations when placing insurance with non-admitted carriers? They ensure that the non-admitted carrier has a minimum AM Best rating of A or higher. B. Provide a detailed disclosure to the insured, explaining that the insurance is placed with a non-admitted carrier and not protected by state guarantee funds. C. Obtain prior approval from the Alabama Department of Insurance before placing each policy with a non-admitted carrier. D. File a copy of each policy with the state insurance department within 30 days of issuance. Correct answer. B. Provide a detailed disclosure to the insured, explaining that the insurance is placed with a non-admitted carrier and not protected by state guarantee funds. Explanation. Surplus lines brokers in Alabama must inform the insured that the insurance is with a non-admitted carrier, which means it is not subject to the same regulatory protections as admitted insurers, including the lack of guarantee fund coverage. Question 24 scenario. James is a claims adjuster for a surplus lines insurer handling a complex property damage claim in Alabama. The claimant, a small business owner, presents a loss estimate that seems unusually high. James suspects the estimate might be inflated but wants to handle the situation ethically and professionally. What is the most appropriate course of action for James to take to address his concerns about the inflated estimate while adhering to ethical standards? A. Reject the claimant's estimate outright and provide a lower settlement offer based on the insurer's internal guidelines. B. Accuse the claimant of attempting to commit fraud and threaten to involve law enforcement if the estimate is not adjusted. C. Discuss his concerns with the claimant and request additional documentation or a second opinion from an independent appraiser to verify the estimate's accuracy. D. Accept the estimate as presented to avoid conflict and expedite the settlement process, even if it seems high. Correct answer. C. Discuss his concerns with the claimant and request additional documentation or a second opinion from an independent appraiser to verify the estimate's accuracy. Explanation. Engaging in an open dialogue with the claimant and seeking further documentation or an independent appraisal ensures that the claim is handled fairly and transparently. This approach aligns with ethical standards and helps to verify the legitimacy of the estimate. Question 25. When interpreting a surplus lines insurance policy in Alabama, which principle should be applied to understand the meaning of ambiguous policy language? A. The policy language should be interpreted strictly in favor of the insurer, as they are the drafter of the policy terms. B. Ambiguities in the policy language should be resolved in favor of the policyholder, ensuring that coverage is provided wherever possible. C. The policy language should be interpreted based on the most common practices and definitions used in the surplus lines insurance market. D. Ambiguities in the policy should be referred to an industry arbitration panel for a binding interpretation. Correct answer. B. Ambiguities in the policy language should be resolved in favor of the policyholder, ensuring that coverage is provided wherever possible. Explanation. The principle of contra proferentum applies in surplus lines insurance, meaning ambiguities are resolved in favor of the policyholder. This approach protects the insured, who typically has less influence over the policy terms. Question 26. Under Alabama law, which of the following practices is required of surplus lines insurers to ensure compliance with fair claims handling regulations? A. Surplus lines insurers must use the same claims handling procedures and timelines as admitted insurers regulated by the Alabama Department of Insurance. B. Surplus lines insurers must ensure that claims are handled promptly and that reasonable steps are taken to investigate and resolve claims fairly, even if their procedures differ from those of admitted insurers. C. Surplus lines insurers are not subject to any specific claims handling regulations and can set their own procedures entirely independent of state laws. D. Surplus lines insurers must report every claim they handle to the Alabama Department of Insurance within 10 days of receiving the claim. Correct answer. B. Surplus lines insurers must ensure that claims are handled promptly and that reasonable steps are taken to investigate and resolve claims fairly, even if their procedures differ from those of admitted insurers. Explanation. Alabama requires surplus lines insurers to handle claims in a fair and timely manner, ensuring that claims are investigated and resolved based on reasonable and justifiable practices. Question 27 scenario. Sarah owns a small tech startup in Alabama that suffered significant data loss due to a cyber attack. She files a claim under her surplus lines insurance policy for business interruption and data recovery costs. The policy does not explicitly define how to value the loss of digital data. Question. How should the claims adjuster proceed to fairly evaluate the extent and value of Sarah's claim in accordance with industry best practices and Alabama regulations? They apply a standardized industry valuation method for digital data loss, even if the policy does not provide specific guidance on this. B. Use the cost of physical data storage devices as the primary basis for valuing the digital data loss. C. Conduct a detailed assessment involving consultation with IT experts to determine the reasonable costs associated with data recovery and the impact on business operations. D. Deny the claim because the policy does not explicitly cover digital data loss or provide a valuation method. Correct answer. C. Conduct a detailed assessment involving consultation with IT experts to determine the reasonable costs associated with data recovery and the impact on business operations. Explanation. A thorough evaluation involving IT experts helps to accurately assess the costs and impacts of data loss. This approach ensures that the claim is valued based on actual recovery needs and operational impacts, aligning with best practices and regulatory expectations. Question 28. In surplus lines claims handling in Alabama, why is effective communication with all involved parties crucial throughout the claims process? A. Effective communication helps to minimize the insurer's liability by limiting the amount of information shared with the insured and other stakeholders. B. Clear and timely communication fosters transparency, builds trust, and ensures that all parties understand the status of the claim and their respective roles and responsibilities. C. Communication is unnecessary in surplus lines claims handling since policies are typically straightforward and do not require clarification. D. Limiting communication reduces the likelihood of the insured filing complaints or legal actions against the insurer, thereby minimizing administrative burdens. Correct answer. B. Clear and timely communication fosters transparency, builds trust, and ensures that all parties understand the status of the claim and their respective roles and responsibilities. Explanation. Effective communication is essential in surplus lines claims handling to maintain transparency, manage expectations, and ensure that all parties are informed and involved throughout the process. This approach fosters trust and helps to resolve claims efficiently. Question 29. Scenario: Mike, a surplus lines claims adjuster in Alabama, is negotiating a settlement with a policyholder whose property sustained damage in a severe storm. The insured is requesting a higher settlement amount than what Mike believes is justified based on the policy terms and evidence. Question: What should Mike consider when negotiating the settlement to ensure fairness and regulatory compliance? A. Offer the insured a lower settlement amount than requested to minimize costs for the insurer and expedite the claims process. B. Focus solely on reaching a quick settlement to avoid escalating costs and potential litigation, even if it means compromising on the final settlement amount. C. Conduct a thorough review of the policy, evidence, and applicable laws to determine a fair settlement amount and engage in transparent communication with the insured throughout the negotiation process. D. Delay the settlement process to pressure the insured into accepting a lower amount, thereby reducing the financial impact on the insurer. Correct answer: C. Conduct a thorough review of the policy, evidence, and applicable laws to determine a fair settlement amount and engage in transparent communication with the insured throughout the negotiation process. Explanation: Conducting a thorough review and engaging in transparent communication with the insured ensures that the settlement is based on a fair assessment of the claim and complies with regulatory requirements. Question 30. Under Alabama's surplus lines insurance regulations, how should surplus lines insurers handle confidential information obtained during the claims handling process? A. Share confidential information freely with third parties, as long as it is deemed relevant to the claim investigation. B. Store confidential information securely and only disclose it to individuals who have a legitimate need to know, such as the insured, legal representatives, and regulatory authorities. C. Use confidential information for marketing purposes to assess the insured's future risk profile and adjust premiums accordingly. D. Sell confidential information to data brokers and other third parties to generate additional revenue for the insurer. Correct answer: B. Store confidential information securely and only disclose it to individuals who have a legitimate need to know, such as the insured, legal representatives, and regulatory authorities. Explanation: Surplus lines insurers are required to handle confidential information with care, storing it securely and limiting disclosure to individuals with a legitimate need to know, such as those directly involved in the claims process or authorized regulatory bodies. Question 31. Which of the following is a key requirement for surplus lines brokers in Alabama to ensure compliance with state regulations when placing insurance with a non-admitted insurer? A. The broker must obtain 3 declinations from admitted insurers before placing coverage with a non-admitted insurer. B. The broker is required to notify the insured within 90 days that the policy does not provide protection from the Alabama Insurance Guarantee Association. C. The broker must file an annual report detailing all surplus lines transactions to the Alabama Department of Insurance. D. The broker must ensure that the non-admitted insurer is authorized to write the type of insurance requested in at least one other state. Correct answer: A. The broker must obtain 3 declinations from admitted insurers before placing coverage with a non-admitted insurer. Explanation: Alabama law requires surplus lines brokers to secure declinations from at least 3 admitted insurers before placing coverage with a non-admitted insurer, demonstrating that coverage was not available in the admitted market. Question 32. Scenario: Maria is a surplus lines claims adjuster in Alabama handling a fire damage claim for a commercial property. The policyholder asserts that the fire was caused by faulty electrical wiring installed by a contractor. During the investigation, Maria finds discrepancies between the policyholders. How should Maria proceed to ensure a thorough and unbiased investigation? A. Rely on the contractor's report as the most credible source of information and dismiss the policyholder's statements. B. Request an independent expert evaluation to determine the actual cause of the fire and reconcile the discrepancies between the policyholder's statements and the contractor's report. C. Assume that both the policyholder and contractor are biased and independently determine the cause of the fire based on the initial claim report alone. D. Conclude that the claim is fraudulent due to the discrepancies and deny the claim without further investigation. Correct answer: B. Request an independent expert evaluation to determine the actual cause of the fire and reconcile the discrepancies between the policyholder's statements and the contractor's report. Explanation. Consulting an independent expert ensures an objective assessment of the fire's cause, which helps to clarify the discrepancies and support a fair and unbiased investigation. Question 33. In Alabama, what is the best practice for a surplus lines claims adjuster to avoid conflicts of interest when handling a claim? A. The adjuster should disclose any personal or financial interest in the claim to all parties involved and recuse themselves from the case if such interests exist. B. The adjuster should prioritize the insurer's interests above those of the insured to ensure the company's financial stability. C. The adjuster should limit communication with the insured to avoid developing any personal bias that might affect the claim outcome. D. The adjuster should accept gifts or favors from the insured to build a positive relationship as long as these do not exceed a modest value. Correct answer. A. The adjuster should disclose any personal or financial interest in the claim to all parties involved and recuse themselves from the case if such interests exist. Explanation. Disclosing any potential conflicts of interest and recusing oneself from handling the claim ensures impartiality and maintains the integrity of the claims process. This approach aligns with ethical standards and professional conduct. Question 34. In Alabama, how should a surplus lines claims adjuster approach the evaluation of evidence when handling a complex property damage claim involving multiple potential causes? A. Focus on gathering evidence that supports the insurer's initial assessment to streamline the claims process and reduce costs. B. Collect and evaluate all available evidence, including expert reports, witness statements, and physical inspections, to objectively determine the cause and extent of the damage. C. Rely on the policyholder's account of the incident as the primary source of evidence to ensure that the claim is resolved in their favor. D. Ignore evidence from external sources and base the evaluation solely on the information provided by the insured and the policy documentation. Correct answer. B. Collect and evaluate all available evidence, including expert reports, witness statements, and physical inspections, to objectively determine the cause and extent of the damage. Explanation. A comprehensive approach that considers all available evidence, including expert analyses and witness accounts, ensures an objective and accurate evaluation of the claim. This aligns with best practices in claims investigation and helps in determining the rightful outcome. Question 35. Scenario. Jackson runs a manufacturing business in Alabama and holds a surplus lines insurance policy that covers business interruption. Following a machinery breakdown, he files a claim for lost revenue and the cost of repairs. The policy contains complex provisions for calculating business interruption losses. What should Jackson's claims adjuster consider when evaluating the extent and value of his business interruption claim? A. Base the evaluation on the previous month's revenue without considering seasonal variations or future business prospects. B. Use a standard formula provided by the insurer for all business interruption claims, regardless of the specific details of Jackson's business. C. Consider the actual historical revenue, the duration of the interruption, the business's seasonal trends, and any steps Jackson took to mitigate the loss. D. Evaluate the claim solely on the cost of the machinery repair and ignore the lost revenue component to simplify the process. Correct answer. C. Consider the actual historical revenue, the duration of the interruption, the business's seasonal trends, and any steps Jackson took to mitigate the loss. Explanation. A thorough evaluation should include the historical revenue trends, the length of the interruption, seasonal impacts, and mitigation efforts. This comprehensive approach ensures that the true financial impact of the interruption is accurately assessed. Question 36. What is a critical compliance requirement for surplus lines brokers in Alabama when reporting surplus lines insurance transactions? A. Brokers must submit a detailed report of each transaction within 24 hours of placing the insurance with a non-admitted carrier. B. Brokers are required to file a quarterly report and remit a surplus lines tax to the Alabama Department of Insurance, detailing all transactions and premiums collected. C. Brokers need only keep records of transactions and are not required to report them to any regulatory body unless a claim is filed. D. Brokers must notify the insured of the transaction but are not required to submit any reports to the state authorities. Correct answer. B. Brokers are required to file a quarterly report and remit a surplus lines tax to the Alabama Department of Insurance, detailing all transactions and premiums collected. Explanation. Alabama requires surplus lines brokers to file quarterly reports and pay taxes on the premiums collected. This ensures regulatory oversight and compliance with state tax laws. Question 37. In Alabama, how should an adjuster handle a claim where the policy language is ambiguous regarding coverage for flood damage under a surplus lines insurance policy? A. Deny the claim outright since flood damage is typically excluded in standard property insurance policies. B. Interpret the ambiguity in favor of the insurer and deny the claim to protect the company's financial interests. C. Interpret the ambiguous policy language in favor of the insured and provide coverage for the flood damage. D. Seek clarification from the policy's underwriting department to determine the original intent of the policy language and base the decision on their guidance. Correct answer. C. Interpret the ambiguous policy language in favor of the insured and provide coverage for the flood damage. Explanation. Under Alabama law, and consistent with general insurance principles, ambiguities in policy language are interpreted in favor of the insured. This approach supports the insured's reasonable expectation of coverage. Question 38. Scenario. Emily, a surplus lines claims adjuster in Alabama, is handling a contentious property damage claim where the insured believes the damage should be fully covered. However, the insurer's preliminary assessment suggests partial coverage due to wear and tear exclusions. The insured has threatened to file a complaint with the Alabama Department of Insurance if the claim is not fully honored. What should Emily do to handle the situation ethically and professionally? A. Offer a quick settlement that partially meets the insured's demands to avoid the complaint and close the claim quickly. B. Advise the insured to withdraw their complaint threat in exchange for a favorable claims outcome. C. Thoroughly review the claim details, policy language, and exclusions, and communicate transparently with the insured about the coverage decision and their rights to dispute resolution. D. Deny the claim based on the initial assessment and refer the insured to legal counsel if they wish to pursue the complaint further. Correct answer. C. Thoroughly review the claim details, policy language, and exclusions, and communicate transparently with the insured about the coverage decision and their rights to dispute resolution. Explanation. Emily should conduct a thorough review and provide transparent communication about the decision and the insured's rights, including their options for dispute resolution. This approach maintains ethical standards and upholds the insurer's commitment to fair treatment. Question 39. Which of the following best describes the responsibilities of a surplus lines claims adjuster in Alabama when handling a complex liability claim? A. The adjuster should primarily focus on protecting the insurer's financial interests and minimizing the payout to the insured. B. The adjuster is responsible for evaluating the claim fairly and objectively, ensuring compliance with the policy terms, and facilitating timely communication among all parties involved. C. The adjuster's main role is to act as a mediator between the insurer and the insured without making any determinations about coverage or liability. D. The adjuster should defer all decisions to the insurer's legal team to avoid making any independent judgments that could affect the outcome. Correct answer. B. The adjuster is responsible for evaluating the claim fairly and objectively, ensuring compliance with the policy terms, and facilitating timely communication among all parties involved. Explanation. A surplus lines claims adjuster's responsibilities include fair and objective evaluation of the claim, compliance with policy terms, and effective communication with all parties. This ensures a balanced approach and helps maintain trust in the claims process. Question 40. In Alabama, when negotiating a settlement for a large property damage claim under surplus lines insurance policy, which of the following strategies should a claims adjuster consider to ensure a fair and effective resolution? A. Offer the lowest possible settlement amount initially to leave room for negotiation and protect the insurer's financial interests. B. Insist on a full cash payment settlement to simplify the claims process and avoid future liabilities. C. Evaluate all potential settlement options, including repairs, cash payments, or replacement of the damaged property, and discuss these with the insured to find the most suitable solution. D. Require the insured to accept a settlement offer within 48 hours to expedite the claims process and minimize administrative burdens. Correct answer. C. Evaluate all potential settlement options, including repairs, cash payments, or replacement of the damaged property, and discuss these with the insured to find the most suitable solution. Explanation. Considering and discussing all available settlement options ensures a tailored approach that meets the insured's needs and aligns with the policy terms. This approach supports a fair and effective resolution. Question 41. Scenario. David, a surplus lines claims adjuster in Alabama, is investigating a claim involving water damage to High Valley residential property. The policyholder claims the damage resulted from a burst pipe, but David suspects it may be due to a long-term leak not covered by the policy. Which investigative technique should David prioritize to accurately determine the cause of the water damage and assess coverage? A. Conduct a surface-level inspection and rely primarily on the policyholder's description of the incident. B. Immediately deny the claim based on his suspicion of a long-term leak to expedite the claims process. C. Hire a professional water damage expert to conduct a thorough inspection, including identifying the source and timeline of the damage. D. Compare the claim details to previous claims filed by the policyholder to check for any patterns of fraudulent behavior. Correct answer. C. Hire a professional water damage expert to conduct a thorough inspection, including identifying the source and timeline of the damage. Explanation. Engaging a professional expert ensures a detailed and technical assessment of the water damage, which can accurately determine the cause and timeline. This helps in making an informed coverage decision based on the policy terms. Question 42. What are the key requirements for surplus lines brokers in Alabama regarding licensing and reporting of transactions to ensure compliance with state regulations? A. Brokers must renew their surplus lines license annually and file monthly transaction reports with the Alabama Department of Insurance. B. Brokers need to maintain an active surplus lines license, file quarterly transaction reports, and remit the appropriate surplus lines taxes based on premiums collected. C. Brokers are only required to report surplus lines transactions if they exceed a certain monetary threshold and renew their license every 5 years. D. Brokers can operate without a specific surplus lines license as long as they hold a general insurance license and keep detailed records of their transactions. Correct answer. B. Brokers need to maintain an active surplus lines license, file quarterly transaction reports, and remit the appropriate surplus lines taxes based on premiums collected. Explanation. Alabama law mandates that surplus lines brokers hold an active license, file quarterly reports detailing their transactions, and pay taxes on the premiums collected. This ensures transparency and regulatory compliance. Question 43. In Alabama, a surplus lines insurance policyholder discovers that their policy includes an endorsement excluding coverage for acts of terrorism. Which principle should guide the adjuster's interpretation of this endorsement when handling a claim for damage resulting from an act classified as terrorism? A. The adjuster should automatically deny the claim as the endorsement clearly excludes coverage for terrorism-related damages. B. The adjuster should apply the endorsement only if the act of terrorism is recognized by the federal government under the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, TRIA. C. The adjuster should interpret the exclusion narrowly and look for any potential coverage under other parts of the policy that might apply to the loss. D. The adjuster should consult with the policyholder to determine if they understand the implications of the endorsement and proceed based on their understanding. Correct answer. B. The adjuster should apply the endorsement only if the act of terrorism is recognized by the federal government under the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, TRIA. Explanation. The correct answer is B, because under the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, TRIA, a specific event must be certified as an act of terrorism by the federal government for the exclusion to apply. If an event meets the criteria defined by TRIA, the endorsement's exclusion would be valid. This ensures that the application of the exclusion is based on a formal classification, providing clarity and consistency in handling claims related to terrorism. Question 44. Scenario. Marcus, a surplus lines claims adjuster in Alabama, is handling a claim where the policyholder has exaggerated the extent of the damage to their commercial property. Upon investigation, Marcus finds that the actual damage is significantly less than what was reported. How should Marcus ethically handle the discrepancy between the reported damage and the actual findings? A. Deny the entire claim based on the policyholder's misrepresentation to set a precedent against fraudulent behavior. B. Approve the claim for the exaggerated amount to avoid conflict and expedite the settlement process. C. Adjust the claim to reflect the accurate damage amount found during the investigation and inform the policyholder about the findings. D. Offer a settlement based on a compromise between the reported and the actual damage to maintain good relations with the policyholder. Correct answer. C. Adjust the claim to reflect the accurate damage amount found during the investigation and inform the policyholder about the findings. Explanation. The correct answer is C, because it is both ethical and professional for Marcus to adjust the claim to the correct amount. By doing so, he maintains the integrity of the claims process and ensures that the policyholder is compensated fairly according to the actual damages. Transparency and communication about the findings also upholds ethical standards and builds trust in the claims handling process. Question 45. In Alabama, what regulatory requirement must surplus lines insurers and brokers comply with when settling a claim to ensure proper documentation and regulatory adherence? A. They must file a copy of the settlement agreement with the Alabama Department of Insurance within 10 days of reaching the agreement. B. They are required to keep detailed records of the settlement process and provide documentation to the Alabama Department of Insurance upon request. C. They must obtain approval from the Alabama Department of Insurance before finalizing any settlement over $100,000. D. They should send a summary of the settlement terms to the insured and the insurer's legal department for their records. Correct answer. B. They are required to keep detailed records of the settlement process and provide documentation to the Alabama Department of Insurance upon request. Explanation. The correct answer is B, because Alabama regulations mandate that surplus lines insurers and brokers maintain comprehensive records of the settlement process. This documentation must be available for review by the Alabama Department of Insurance upon request. Keeping detailed records ensures transparency, compliance with regulatory standards, and provides a clear audit trail for any future disputes or inquiries. Question 46. In Alabama, a policyholder under surplus lines insurance policy alleges that the claims adjuster has engaged in unfair claims practices by delaying the settlement process without justification. What action should the policyholder expect the Alabama Department of Insurance to take if these allegations are substantiated? A. The department will impose a fine on the adjuster and the insurer for each day the settlement was unjustifiably delayed. B. The department will require the insurer to immediately settle the claim in full, regardless of the policy terms. C. The department will conduct a thorough investigation and, if the allegations are confirmed, may impose penalties and require corrective actions to ensure compliance with fair claims practices. D. The department will provide the policyholder with a replacement adjuster to expedite the claims process. Correct answer. C. The department will conduct a thorough investigation and, if the allegations are confirmed, may impose penalties and require corrective actions to ensure compliance with fair claims practices. Explanation. The correct answer is C, because the Alabama Department of Insurance oversees compliance with fair claims practices. If a policyholder's complaint is substantiated, the department will investigate and may impose penalties on the insurer or adjuster and mandate corrective actions. This ensures that insurers handle claims promptly and fairly, protecting policyholders' rights and maintaining the integrity of the claims process under Alabama law. Question 47. Scenario. Lisa, an adjuster for a surplus lines insurer in Alabama, is dealing with a complex claim involving structural damage to a commercial building following a minor earthquake. The damage extent and cause are disputed by the policyholder and the insurer's initial assessment. How should Lisa effectively utilize outside experts to resolve this dispute? A. Hire a structural engineer to provide an independent evaluation of the damage and its relation to the earthquake. B. Use the policyholder's assessment as the final authority and settle the claim based on their evaluation. C. Conduct the investigation herself without involving any outside experts to save costs and expedite the process. D. Reject the claim due to the lack of clarity and advise the policyholder to seek legal counsel for further actions. Correct answer. A. Hire a structural engineer to provide an independent evaluation of the damage and its relation to the earthquake. Explanation. The correct answer is A, because engaging a structural engineer or other qualified expert can provide a professional and unbiased assessment of the damage. This independent evaluation helps in accurately determining the cause and extent of the damage, leading to a fair and informed decision on the claim. utilizing outside experts is a best practice in complex claims and aligns with the principles of thorough and objective investigation required in surplus lines claims handling. Question 48. An insured in Alabama holds a surplus lines policy that includes a windstorm exclusion. After a severe storm, they file a claim for damage they believe was caused by heavy rain, not wind. How should the claims adjuster approach the evaluation of this claim given the windstorm exclusion? A. Deny the claim outright since the policy has a windstorm exclusion and storms often involve wind. B. Accept the claim without further investigation as long as the policyholder insists the damage was caused by rain. C. Conduct a detailed investigation to differentiate the causes of the damage, focusing on whether the primary cause was wind or rain, and evaluate the claim based on the findings. D. Apply the exclusion broadly to include any storm-related damage, as storms are typically associated with wind. Correct answer. C. Conduct a detailed investigation to differentiate the causes of the damage, focusing on whether the primary cause was wind or rain, and evaluate the claim based on the findings. Explanation. The correct answer is C, because the adjuster should not make assumptions about the cause of the damage based solely on the presence of a storm. A thorough investigation is necessary to determine whether the damage was primarily due to wind, which would fall under the exclusion, or rain, which may be covered. This approach ensures that the claim is evaluated fairly and according to the specific terms and conditions of the policy, respecting the insured's right to an accurate and just settlement. Question 49. In Alabama, a business files a claim under its surplus lines insurance policy for damages caused by a ruptured underground pipeline. The policy includes an exclusion for pollution-related damages. The business argues that the damage was primarily due to structural failure and not pollution. How should the claims adjuster determine the applicability of the exclusion? A. Deny the claim based on the presence of the exclusion, as any incident involving a pipeline could be considered pollution-related. B. Evaluate the circumstances of the rupture to determine if the primary cause of the damage was structural failure or if it involved the release of pollutants. C. Approve the claim since structural failures are typically covered, regardless of any pollution exclusion. D. Consult with legal counsel to reinterpret the exclusion and find a way to approve the claim under business pressure. Correct answer. B. Evaluate the circumstances of the rupture to determine if the primary cause of the damage was structural failure or if it involved the release of pollutants. Explanation. The correct answer is B, because the adjuster must carefully examine the details of the incident to establish whether the damage falls within the scope of the policy's exclusion. If the damage is primarily due to structural failure without significant release of pollutants, the exclusion may not apply. This nuanced approach ensures that claims are handled based on their specific facts and the precise wording of the policy, adhering to fair claims practices. Question 50 scenario. Samantha is a surplus lines claims adjuster in Alabama who has been assigned a claim involving significant fire damage to a manufacturing plant. During her investigation, she discovers potential safety violations that could have contributed to the fire. How should Samantha proceed ethically in handling this claim? A. Inform the insured immediately about the safety violations and suggest they might affect the outcome of their claim. B. Ignore the safety violations to expedite the claims process and avoid complicating the settlement. C. Document the findings thoroughly, continue with the investigation, and report the safety violations as required by regulatory guidelines while determining their impact on the claim. D. Deny the claim outright based on the discovered safety violations without further investigation. Correct answer. C. Document the findings thoroughly, continue with the investigation, and report the safety violations as required by regulatory guidelines while determining their impact on the claim. Explanation. The correct answer is C, because ethical claims handling requires Samantha to document all relevant findings, including potential safety violations. She must evaluate how these violations might impact the coverage and liability under the policy. Reporting these findings to the appropriate parties ensures transparency and compliance with regulatory and ethical standards. This approach maintains professional integrity and adheres to the principles of thorough and unbiased claims investigation. Question 51. In Alabama, a surplus lines adjuster is tasked with evaluating a complex claim for business interruption due to a prolonged power outage after a natural disaster. What loss adjustment technique should the adjuster employ to accurately assess the financial impact on the insured's business? A. Estimate the loss based on average business earnings over the last quarter, adjusted for inflation. B. Review the insured's financial records to calculate the actual loss of income during the outage period and consider any mitigating factors such as alternative revenue sources. C. Apply a flat rate per day of business interruption provided in the policy without reviewing specific financial details. D. Delay the evaluation until full business operations resume to get a complete picture of the impact. Correct answer. B. Review the insured's financial records to calculate the actual loss of income during the outage period and consider any mitigating factors such as alternative revenue sources. Explanation. The correct answer is B, because accurate loss adjustment for business interruption claims requires a detailed analysis of the insured's financial records. This analysis should include the loss of income during the outage and any factors that might offset this loss, such as alternative operations or revenues. This method ensures that the settlement reflects the true financial impact on the business, in line with the policy terms and fair claims handling practices. This comprehensive approach helps in achieving a fair and equitable settlement for both the insurer and the insured. Question 52. In Alabama, a surplus lines claims adjuster is negotiating a settlement for a claim involving substantial property damage to a warehouse. The insured and the insurer have significantly different estimates of the damage costs. What is the most effective strategy the adjuster should employ to reach a fair settlement? A. Accept the insured's estimate to maintain good customer relations, even if it exceeds the adjuster's valuation. B. Insist on the insurer's initial estimate to protect the insurer's financial interests regardless of the insured's arguments. C. Facilitate a meeting with an independent appraiser to provide a third-party assessment that can serve as a basis for negotiation. D. Offer a compromise amount that is halfway between the insurer's and the insured's estimates without additional assessment. Correct answer. C. Facilitate a meeting with an independent appraiser to provide a third-party assessment that can serve as a basis for negotiation. Explanation. The correct answer is C, because involving an independent appraiser provides an objective evaluation of the damage, which can help bridge the gap between the insurer's and the insured's estimates. This third-party assessment can serve as a neutral ground for negotiations, leading to a fair and mutually acceptable settlement. This approach aligns with best practices in claims settlement, ensuring transparency and fairness while mitigating potential disputes. Question 53 scenario. Carlos, an insured in Alabama, has filed a complex claim under his surplus lines insurance policy after a significant flood event damaged his commercial property. The insurance company has assigned multiple parties, including an adjuster, a claims manager, and a legal advisor, to handle different aspects of the claim. Carlos is confused about who is responsible for each role. Which stakeholder is primarily responsible for evaluating the extent of the damage and determining the appropriate settlement amount? A. The claims manager. B. The legal advisor. C. The adjuster. D. The insured. Correct answer. C. The adjuster. Explanation. The correct answer is C, because the adjuster is typically responsible for evaluating the extent of the damage and determining the appropriate settlement amount. The adjuster's role includes assessing the damage, gathering necessary documentation, and working with the insured to ensure that the claim is processed fairly and efficiently. The claims manager oversees the process to ensure that it aligns with the company's policies and regulatory requirements, while the legal advisor provides support for any legal aspects of the claim. The insured is the claimant but is not responsible for evaluating or determining the settlement amount. Question 54. In Alabama, which of the following is a key compliance requirement for surplus lines insurers when handling claims to ensure adherence to state regulations? A. Surplus lines insurers must obtain pre-approval from the Alabama Department of Insurance for all claims settlements over $50,000. B. They must regularly submit detailed claims reports to the Alabama Department of Insurance, including claims data and settlement details. C. Surplus lines insurers are required to notify the insured within 48 hours of any decision to deny a claim, providing a detailed explanation. D. They must conduct claims investigations solely in-house without outsourcing to third-party investigators. Correct answer. B. They must regularly submit detailed claims reports to the Alabama Department of Insurance, including claims data and settlement details. Explanation. The correct answer is B, because Alabama regulations require surplus lines insurers to maintain comprehensive records of all claims and submit detailed reports to the Alabama Department of Insurance. These reports typically include data on claims filed, settled, or denied, and help ensure that the insurers comply with state laws and regulations regarding fair claims practices. Regular reporting allows the regulatory body to monitor the market and enforce compliance, protecting the interests of policyholders and maintaining the integrity of the insurance process. Question 55. In Alabama, a surplus lines claims adjuster is investigating a claim for fire damage to a manufacturing facility. The policyholder insists that the fire was caused by an electrical fault, while the initial report suggests possible arson. What should be the adjuster's best practice approach to investigate and verify the cause of the fire? A. Accept the policyholder's explanation to expedite the claim process and avoid further investigation costs. B. Rely solely on the initial report suggesting arson and deny the claim based on this preliminary finding. C. Engage a fire investigator to conduct a thorough investigation, including forensic analysis and reviewing surveillance footage, to determine the precise cause of the fire. D. Request the policyholder to provide evidence supporting their claim of an electrical fault and make a decision based on their documentation. Correct answer. C. Engage a fire investigator to conduct a thorough investigation, including forensic analysis and reviewing surveillance footage, to determine the precise cause of the fire. Explanation. The correct answer is C, because a thorough and unbiased investigation is crucial to accurately determine the cause of the fire. Engaging a fire investigator allows for expert analysis of the incident, including forensic evidence and possibly reviewing any surveillance footage. This comprehensive approach helps to establish whether the fire was due to an electrical fault or arson, ensuring that the claim is handled based on factual and detailed findings rather than assumptions or preliminary reports. This method adheres to best practices in claims investigation, promoting fairness and accuracy. Question 56. An insured in Alabama has a surplus lines policy that includes an earth movement exclusion. After a series of earthquakes, the insured files a claim for property damage, arguing that the policy should cover the damages since the primary cause was a landslide triggered by the earthquakes. How should the claims adjuster interpret the exclusion in evaluating this claim? A. Deny the claim as the earth movement exclusion clearly applies to any movement of the ground, including landslides triggered by earthquakes. B. Approve the claim if the policyholder can demonstrate that the landslide was the primary cause of the damage, regardless of the earthquake exclusion. C. Evaluate whether the policy distinguishes between different types of earth movements and consider any specific exclusions related to landslides. D. Automatically approve the claim because landslides are generally covered unless specifically excluded by another policy provision. Correct answer. A. Deny the claim as the earth movement exclusion clearly applies to any movement of the ground, including landslides triggered by earthquakes. Explanation. The correct answer is A, because the earth movement exclusion typically encompasses all forms of earth movements, including landslides, regardless of what triggers them. This means that even if a landslide is caused by an earthquake, the exclusion would apply and the policy would not cover the damages. This interpretation aligns with the common understanding of such exclusions in insurance policies and ensures that claims are evaluated consistently with the policy's terms and coverage limitations. Question 57. Scenario. Kevin, a claims adjuster for a surplus lines insurer in Alabama, discovers during his investigation that the policyholder has understated the value of their insured equipment to lower their premiums. This information was revealed after a significant loss claim was filed. How should Kevin proceed ethically and professionally in handling this claim? A. Deny the claim immediately due to the policyholder's misrepresentation of equipment value. B. Approve the claim based on the actual value of the equipment, as it was an honest mistake on the policyholder's part. C. Evaluate the claim based on the stated value in the policy but report the misrepresentation for possible policy adjustments or actions. D. Adjust the claim to reflect the true value of the equipment but advise the policyholder that future misrepresentations could lead to policy cancellation. Correct answer. C. Evaluate the claim based on the stated value in the policy but report the misrepresentation for possible policy adjustments or actions. Explanation. The correct answer is C, because the adjuster should process the claim according to the policy's terms, which reflect the stated value of the equipment. Reporting the misrepresentation is necessary to address the policyholder's actions and ensure the insurer can take appropriate steps, such as adjusting the policy or addressing the potential for future risk. This approach balances ethical responsibility with professional conduct, ensuring the claim is handled fairly while maintaining the integrity of the underwriting process. Question 58. In Alabama, a surplus lines claims adjuster is handling a claim for water damage to commercial property allegedly caused by a burst pipe. The property owner has submitted photographs and repair invoices as evidence. What additional steps should the adjuster take to thoroughly evaluate the claim? A. Approve the claim immediately based on the provided photographs and invoices to expedite the process. B. Conduct an on-site inspection and consult with a plumbing expert to confirm the cause and extent of the damage. C. Deny the claim if there is no mention of previous plumbing issues in the insured's maintenance records. D. Request a sworn statement from the property owner without further investigation. Correct answer. B. Conduct an on-site inspection and consult with a plumbing expert to confirm the cause and extent of the damage. Explanation. The correct answer is B, because a thorough investigation requires verifying the submitted evidence and understanding the cause and scope of the damage. Conducting an on-site inspection allows the adjuster to assess the damage firsthand, and consulting with a plumbing expert provides specialized knowledge to accurately determine if the burst pipe caused the damage. This comprehensive approach ensures that the claim is evaluated based on reliable and verified information, adhering to best practices in claims handling. Question 59. After a lengthy negotiation, a surplus lines insurer and an insured in Alabama reach a settlement agreement for a claim involving extensive wind damage to a commercial building. What is the most critical step the adjuster must take to finalize this settlement properly? A. Verbally agree to the settlement terms with the insured and proceed with the payment. B. Document the settlement agreement in writing, including all terms and conditions, and have it signed by both parties. C. Finalize the settlement without documentation to avoid creating a paper trail that could be used in future disputes. D. Immediately disperse the agreed settlement amount to the insured without requiring any formal agreement. Correct answer. B. Document the settlement agreement in writing, including all terms and conditions, and have it signed by both parties. Explanation. The correct answer is B, because formal documentation of the settlement agreement is crucial. This written agreement should detail all terms and conditions, ensuring both parties have a clear and mutually understood record of the settlement. Having it signed by both parties protects the insurer and the insured by providing a legal document that outlines the resolution of the claim and prevents future disputes over the agreed terms. This step is essential for compliance with regulatory requirements and maintaining professional standards in claims handling. Question 60. Scenario. Maria, a claims adjuster for a surplus lines insurer in Alabama, is assigned a claim involving a significant fire loss at a property owned by her cousin's business. She realizes that her personal connection could influence her judgment in handling the claim. What is the most appropriate action for Maria to take in this situation? A. Continue to handle the claim but ensure she adheres strictly to the policy and claims handling guidelines to avoid bias. B. Inform her supervisor about the potential conflict of interest and request reassignment to avoid any appearance of bias. C. Handle the claim herself but provide regular updates to her supervisor to ensure transparency. D. Process the claim but ask for a second opinion on the settlement decision from another adjuster within the company. Correct answer. B. Inform her supervisor about the potential conflict of interest and request reassignment to avoid any appearance of bias. Explanation. The correct answer is B, because Maria's personal connection to the policyholder presents a conflict of interest that could compromise her impartiality. By informing her supervisor and requesting reassignment, Maria takes the appropriate action to ensure that the claim is handled objectively and fairly by another adjuster. This step helps maintain the integrity of the claims process and adheres to ethical standards, avoiding any potential for bias or the appearance of impropriety. This approach aligns with professional conduct guidelines and protects the interests of both the insurer and the insured.